Just last week, on May 28th, Harambe, the beautiful silverback gorilla at the Cincinnati Zoo, was tragically shot after lovingly picking up a young boy. The young boy's mother irresponsibly lost track of her son after he intruded on the gorilla's habitat. Reporters from CNN were on the scene to interview some witnesses.
Number 1, Shelley Longbottom's here to tell us her take on the shooting of Harambe.
I saw an innocent gorilla get shot by a crazy woman.
This is Colleen Barbieri from CNN News.
How else to interpret the wildly overblown attention placed on the shooting of a gorilla at the Cincinnati Zoo? Irritated by the screaming visitors, he grabbed the boy by the ankle and dragged him through the water. The decision was to shoot and kill him to protect the child. Zach Fuller, an employee at the Cincinnati Zoo, explains that the zoo made the right decision when deciding between a human life and the life of an animal.
Yeah, well, Harambe took control of a baby, and I thought what he deserved, getting shot.
So sure, let's take a moment to be upset about the fate of Harambe, but only a moment. Then let's remember that our virtues signaling about the death of a 450-pound gorilla to save the life of a small child isn't virtuous at all. It's a sign that our virtue has been twisted in ugly ways that will end with more human suffering in the end. This is Lena Williams reporting from Fox News.
Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News.
The death of Harambe the gorilla has sparked lots of controversy among many animal activist groups like PETA, who released a statement recently saying that even under the best circumstances, captivity is never acceptable for gorillas or other primates, and in cases like this, it's even deadly. PETA goes on to say that this tragedy is exactly why PETA urges families to stay away from any facility that displays animals as sideshows for humans to gawk at. So who's really at fault? The zoos or Harambe? This is Leah Crandall from NBC News.
So as you just saw through our example with Harambe, we showed you the framing effect through using 3 different media sources to portray 3 different sides of the Harambe outcome of his death. So we looked at NBC News, Fox, and CNN and took on their takes of Harambe's death. So going along with the assumption and conclusions of the framing effect theory and all, we want to kind of run through those and point out how you saw those throughout our video and our reports from the news sources. So the first assumption with framing is that media has a strong presence.
So the people that they interview changed and framed their side of the story. Media does have a strong effect.
And then the second assumption is what topics are presented and how that determines the issues audience think about and how they think about them.
Since there are 3 different frames, depending on which news source was presented, they would either see it justified, unjustified, or take their own personal interpretation, such as animals do not belong in captivity.
The third assumption of the framing effect theory is audiences interpret information through their own frames.
You can see through those that were interviewed, they took on their own frames of their own.
So the fifth and last assumption is that frame building is a systematic process that occurs over time.
You saw through CNN being more environmentally friendly that this was a systematic structure that occurred over time and vice versa for Fox, which took more of a conservative view on the Harambe situation.
So summing this all up, how the assumptions go with the conclusions, some of the conclusions of the framing effect theory are that exposure to news coverage results in learning that is consistent with frames that structure it. Framed to support the status quo, and frames are chosen based on traditions and newsroom norms. So you saw all 3 of these conclusions within the assumptions we just explained throughout the video, and also just within the 3 media sources that we decided to use in general.
So you can see from when this theory originated from government, it has evolved to help us and understand situations that are happening now.